Hello, guys, and welcome to today's stream. And we're live here again on Monday for the sketch of this week. If you have been over on Instagram, thank you very much for voting. Poll this week, as it is May, but I have been doing some MCU. I did last week. We did some Spider-Man. I did all of this in sketched on a Monday. We then inked it on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we colored this one in on the paper version, and then Thursday and Friday we did the digital version. If you want to see those digital version, guys, don't forget to check up in the playlist stuff. Otherwise, go over on Instagram because it's posted over there. Again, my name's Blut084, BLUT084, Art and Games. I'm here every single day on YouTube, occasionally on Mixer, but every day and night over on Instagram. Now, again, I put out a poll over on my Instagram and said to you, what would you like me to carry on drawing this week? And the choices were for between the MCU or another scene from Endgame, which I had an idea of maybe doing something to do with Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer, and those two characters in Endgame that you see, which if you already don't know, if you don't know, then it would have been a Captain America, and it would have been Thor. But I did again put out a poll. It wasn't. It was like a "What should I do next?" poll, and I asked you guys, should I get on with something from Mermaid, which is what this list is here for, or something from the MCU, and you voted the Mermaid. So thank you very much for voting over there on Instagram. Again, if you have a suggestion for next week, or if you want me to get on with the picture that I just said on from the MCU or from Endgame, let me know over here on the stream, or you can let me know over on Instagram. Again, guys, Mermaid has its own list of things you've got to do. You're meant to do one each day. No, as I don't have like a sketchbook for just dedicated for each day and just having a doodle in, I do. This book is purely for my YouTube art design and stuff like that. And once I finish this book, I will move on to something new. Don't forget to again subscribe and ding the bell so you know what I'll be doing next. But you've got a few, as you can see here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Well, okay. 16 pages after today, or after this week, until this book is complete. I will be doing something off the page, but for now, we're doing some drawing. If you are a fan of anything I get up to, guys, or if you want to give me a suggestion, you already know what to do. Here is our list of things we've got to do. Normally, I was saying you've got to do it each week. Each day. Each day of the month has its own different task for you to draw. I'm a bit late. I'm about a week and a half in of Mermaid now. So I'm kind of what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm picking the 3 of just this week, which will be all the way from Monday today until Sunday, which is 7 days. So we've got 7 things we've got to incorporate in this one picture, which is octopus, ice, dawn, Disney, future, dark, and treasure. Now, dark and treasure, or dawn and dark, I suppose I could do half and half. That could be the background. So the dawn and dark is definitely going to be the background in the scene we're going to be in. So it's going to be a dawny, darky sort of. It's coming in, just becoming daytime because they've been in the dark. An octopus and ice. Now, I think it may be an octopus. As it's Mermaid, it has to be something. Everything here, the whole image the whole picture will be something mermaidish, or mermaid. I'm thinking, how am I going to put a mermaid, incorporate an octopus in there? Maybe I could put octopus as the pet of the mermaid. Dawn and ice. An ice. Would you say an ice? What are they called? Yeah, I wasn't say fairy, but imp or something like that. But we're going to try and keep to the mythology of mermaids. So that's the theme of Mermaid. Disney. Well, there's only one Disney character that is mermaid, and that is The Little Mermaid. We'll be listening to that in a moment, guys, because I've got an audio book in the background when I start drawing. I'm just sort of fluffing over ideas at the moment. If you've got any suggestions and the way you want this to get going, then definitely let me know in the comment section. But we've got Disney, so again, mermaids. It's going to be Little Mermaid. So Little Mermaid could be an ice, maybe an ice castle, maybe an ice area. She's going up on land. I don't know. With her octopus friend, which is carrying her, maybe. The ice. It's going to have to be sort of in an ice area. Interesting. So we got future. Then again, it could be an apocalypse, and she could be in the future, and the apocalypse could have happened. And she sort of, instead of her light, happy-go-lucky sort of persona, I could change her into a futuristic dark treasure hunter. How do you think about that? Instead of having her classic look, we'll change her up and I don't know if I would put her in cyborg octopus. That's just, unless she's fighting an octopus. She could be fighting an octopus in a nice cavern-ish thing. As long as I've got ice cap, I suppose it'd be all right. In the dawn, because he's coming out of the dark. I'm saying the octopus is a he. Like an octopus. Holy monkeys! No, the octopus. What are we talking about? In The Little Mermaid. What's that octopus? It's I can't even think of her name, but it's like, yes, right. So she's fighting her and Dawn in the ice caps in the future, because Morgana, whatever her name's, come back, and she's fighting over the treasure that she's kept. Now, the treasure could be her voice again, or a treasure chest, or a trinket of some sort. So they could be, oh my goodness, right. We're getting somewhere. So we've got Disney, so it's going to be Little Mermaid. So we'll be listening to that again in a moment. Let's say little. Why can't I spell little? Say mermaid. Well, that's not right. Maid, whatever. Little Mermaid. For the Disney, and the octopus we could have as, what do we say? Now, do we want a soldier, or do we want Little Mermaid? Oh, Little Mermaid again. So it's Morgana. I don't think that's what her name is. Morgana. Could be. I've been watching too much Merlin on Netflix. So Morgana from The Little Mermaid. Little M&M. Ice. Could be, that's going to be the scene. So the dark, so this is going to be a scene. So we'll star that as a scene. That's the scene as well. That also is the scene. So we've got two characters that are going to be doing in the scene. So C for characters and C for characters. What else we got here? We got future. So I'm going to try future treasure. So a future treasure. What could be a future treasure? Or they're in the future and they're fighting for a treasure from the past. Connect those two. Future treasure. We've got Little Mermaid out loud. Dawn is the ice. Dawn and dark. Link those two. Dawn and dark. Dawn and dark. And we got ice. Ice. Future ice. No. Dawn ice. Dark ice. Dark ice. Dark ice is the same stuff. Actually, it's very solid. Dark ice treasure. Ice treasure. Ice treasure. Could be an ice treasure. What do you think could be an ice treasure? Ice octopus. Can't be ice dawn. Ice future. I suppose ice future. Like a we're in the future. She's fighting for a treasure, which is a future treasure. So future ice, future treasure. Ice, future treasure. Let's put a bit of pen on that and link everything together and be happy. So definitely future treasure. Definitely future treasure. We'll put that in. Put this one up. Got a bit of blue. So what was that? Purple. That's blue. Dark and dawn. Dark dawn. And then we've got Disney. I think I'm only going to get around to choosing what I'm going to be doing. So we ice. I should have done all this on Instagram. And then we've got 2 characters linked. I've got my red favorite color out, which oopsie, I forgot to get new pens. My dog's going mental in my bedroom. What are you doing, dog? It's not time for my son to come home yet. So we ice, octopus, because they're 2 linked. And then we said future ice, didn't we? So apocalypse in the future. Everything's iced over. Or they're in solid ice and they're sort of trapped in a perpetual fight for nothing, fight for one treasure, but they're frozen in ice. Ooh. Then it's going to, how can I portray that when they're already a single, not going to move? Ooh, I'm just getting so many ideas. Do you like my ideas? Never coming down below. Da, 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 dee. Do, 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 do. Oh, maybe I could end the week with some the art. Yes, yes, we'll do that. And create another water scene. I've already done one. I'll try and link that at the end of the video. It'll definitely be in the playlist. I link the videos though, guys. So if you want to see anything that I'm chatting about through these videos, they should all be at the end of the video to be able to link to, or definitely in the playlist. Every playlist has something. Or crap! What did I do there? I've done something wrong. With the green. Why did I put future? Future dark treasure. Oops. Treasure. Okay. So we've got the links. Future should have been in green. Whoops. Bit of green there. Trying to be fun. I'm trying to be bloody arty with it now. Stop. We're baffing. We're not arting. Okay, so we've got octopus. It's going to be Disney. It's going to be Little Mermaid. Because why not? We'll be listening to it. And then we've got the ice is going to be the future ice treasure. So future treasure. Ice. It's going to be the scene. Dawn. Coming out of the dark. So let's put that there. Get the Little Mermaid on and just let me faff around for a minute or two. Get some sketches, ideas down while you listen to the Little Mermaid in the background. If you have an audiobook that you would like to me listen to that is either Mermaid or something like that, let me know in the comment section. I don't mind listening to what you guys want to listen to because it's you who watches. So yeah, if you want to watch something, listen to something while I draw, let me know. I'm going to put my camera to the side. I'm going to put this as a reference. I'm going to get doodling. So let's get that playing in the background. Little Mermaid, guys. And again, tomorrow will be either the continuation if this story doesn't finish, and this video may be lengthy because of sketching. Keep watching, or fast forward to the end to see where I got to.
The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. Far out in the ocean, where the water is as blue as the prettiest cornflower and as clear as crystal, it is very, very deep. So deep indeed that no cable could fathom it. Many church steeples, piled one upon another, would not reach from the ground beneath to the surface of the water above. There dwell the Sea King and his subjects. We must not imagine that there is nothing at the bottom of the sea but bare yellow sand. No, indeed. The most unusual flowers and plants grow there, the leaves and stems of which are so delicate that the slightest movement of the water causes them to stir as if they had life. Fishes, both large and small, glide between the branches as birds fly among the trees here upon the land. In the deepest spot of all stands the castle of the Sea King. Its walls are built of coral, and the long Gothic windows are of the clearest amber. The roof is formed of shells that open and close as the water flows among them. Their appearance is very beautiful, for in each lies a glittering pearl, which would be fit for the diadem of a queen. The Sea King's queen had died many years before, and his aged mother kept house for him. She was a very wise woman, and exceedingly proud of her high birth. On that account, she wore 12 oysters on her tail, while others, also of a high rank, were only allowed to wear 6. She was, however, deserving of very great praise, especially for her care of the little sea princesses, her granddaughters. They were 6 beautiful children, but the youngest was the prettiest of them all. Her skin was as clear and delicate as a rose leaf, and her eyes as blue as the deepest sea. But like all the others, she had no feet, and her body ended in a fishtail. All day long they played in the great halls of the castle, or among the living flowers that grew out of the walls. The large amber windows were open, and the fish swam in, just as the swallows might fly into our houses when we open the windows, except that the fish swam up to the princesses, ate out of their hands, and allowed themselves to be stroked. Outside the castle there was a beautiful garden, in which grew bright red and dark blue flowers, and blossoms like flames of fire. The fruit glittered like gold, and the leaves and stems waved to and fro continually. The earth itself was the finest sand, but blue as the flame of burning sulphur. Over everything lay a peculiar blue radiance, as if it were surrounded by the air from above, through which the blue sky shone through, instead of the dark depths of the sea. In calm weather, the sun could be seen, looking like a purple flower, with the light streaming from within it. Each of the young princesses had a little plot of ground in the garden, where she might dig and plant as she pleased. One arranged her flower bed into the form of a whale. Another thought it better to make hers like the figure of a little mermaid. But that of the youngest was round like the sun, and contained flowers as red as his rays at sunset. She was a strange child, quiet and thoughtful, and while her sisters would be delighted with the wonderful things which they obtained from the wrecks of vessels, she cared for nothing but her pretty red flowers like the sun, except a beautiful marble statue. It was the representation of a handsome boy, carved out of pure white stone, which had fallen to the bottom of the sea from a wreck. She planted by the statue a rose-coloured weeping willow. It grew splendidly, and very soon hung its fresh branches over the statue, almost down to the blue sands. The shadow had a violent tint, and waved to and fro.
Okay, I'm just going to pause that playlist there. Excuse me. That is actually helping a lot, actually. Okay, so we've got the octopus there. We've got the Disney mermaid there. So it has to be Disney, so that's easy to pick. The ice, that's kind of ice, I suppose. It's going to be an ice one. I'm trying to make it an ice castle. I'm going to have to pull up a few images. I might get wonder if I've got any charge on my tablet left. I'm using this. No. I have to pull up a few images. What I might do is get this as just sketch today, guys, and go over tonight and or later on and just sort of faff with it. Get the main ideas down because I don't have a clue what any of the actual characters look like because I can't remember. It's been a few years since I've seen The Little Mermaid. So we've got ice in there. We've got dawn. That'll just have to be to do with colouring and shading. Same with the dark. Dark. Again, it could be. So dawn could be coming from here. So it'd be like dawn over here. In the darkness, right. Unless I swap them around. Unless I swap these two around, so the mermaid's near the ice castle and she's trying to steal the treasure. Maybe. Future, and then, because that's definitely the treasure, isn't it? That's got to be the treasure, the voice. It's not future, though. Future. Future. Without turning them into cyborgs, that would be stupid. I did say, like, something. Just wearing, like, a... Ooh, yeah. Instead of her having her long... So we'll change her into a futuristic, like, anarchist. So what do we turn Morgana into? She can't be. Or she could be. Like let's get rid of her arms a minute. The future octopus. Get rid of a head as well. I've got an idea. If you guys have ever heard of Kang, not Kang, Krang. No, Kang, I think, is actually... Oh, no, Mordo. Mordo! Should we do a Mordo? Ha! There's something futuristic. Yes, let's do a Mordo with tentacles. Right. All right, let's get that playing in the background. I've got an idea.
like the branches. It seemed as if the crown of the tree and the root were at play and trying
But
to
it won't
kiss
be
each
Mordo,
other.
it will be what's her face?
Nothing
Well
gave
done.
her so much pleasure as to hear about the world above the sea. She made her old grandmother tell her all she knew of the ships and of the towns, the people and the animals. To her it seemed most wonderful and beautiful to hear that the flowers of the land should have fragrance and not those below the sea, that the trees of the forest should be green, and that the fishes among the trees could sing so sweetly that it was quite a pleasure to hear them. Her grandmother called the little birds fishes, or she would not have understood her, for she had never seen birds. When you have reached your 15th year, said her grandmother, you will have permission to rise up out of the sea to sit on the rocks in the moonlight while the great ships are sailing by, and then you will see both forests and towns. In the following year, one of the sisters would be 15, but as each was a year younger than the other, the youngest would have to wait 5 years before her turn came to rise up from the bottom of the ocean and see the earth as we do. However, each promised to tell the others what she saw on their first visit and what she thought was the most beautiful. For their grandmother could not tell them enough. There were so many things in which they wanted information. None of them longed so much for her turn to come as the youngest, she who had the longest time to wait, and who was so quiet and thoughtful. Many nights she stood by the open window, looking up through the dark blue water and watching the fish as they splashed about with their fins and tails. She could see the moon and stars shining faintly, but through the water they looked larger than they do in our eyes. When something like a black cloud passed between her and them, she knew that it was either a whale swimming overhead or a ship full of human beings who never imagined that a pretty little mermaid was standing beneath them, holding her white hands towards the keel of their ship. As soon as the eldest was 15, she was allowed to rise to the surface of the ocean. When she came back, she had hundreds of things to talk about, but the most beautiful, she said, was to lie in the moonlight on a sandbank in the quiet sea near the coast and to gaze on a large town nearby where the lights were twinkling like hundreds of stars, to listen to the sounds of the music, the noise of carriages, and the voices of human beings. And then to hear the merry bells peal out from the church steeples. And because she could not go near to all those wonderful things, she longed for them more than ever. Oh, did not the younger sister listen eagerly to all these descriptions? And afterwards, when she stood at the open window, looking up through the dark blue water, she thought of the great city with all its bustle and noise, and even fancied she could hear the sound of the church bells down in the depths of the sea. When first the sisters had permission to rise to the surface, they were each delighted with the new and beautiful sights they saw. But now, as grown-up girls, they could go where they pleased, and they had become indifferent about it. They longed for their life under the surface of the water, and after a month had passed, they said it was much more beautiful down below, and pleasanter to be at home. Yet often, in the evening hours, the 5 sisters would twine their arms round each other and rise to the surface in a row. They had more beautiful voices than any human being could have, and before the approach of a storm, and when they expected a ship would be lost, they swam before the vessel, and they sang sweetly of the delights to be found in the depths of the sea, and begging the sailors not to fear if they sank to the bottom. But the sailors could not understand the song, and they took it for the howling of the storm. And these things were never to be beautiful for them. For if the ship sank, the men were drowned, and their dead bodies alone reached the palace of the Sea King. When the sisters rose arm in arm through the water in this way, their youngest sister would stand quite alone, looking after them, ready to cry, only that the mermaids have no tears, and therefore they suffer more. "Oh, were I but 15 years old," said she. "I know that I shall love the world up there, and all the people who live in it." At last she reached her 15th year. "Well, now you are grown up," said the old Queen Mother, her grandmother, "so you must let me dress you like your other sisters." And she placed a wreath of white lilies in her hair, and every flower leaf was half a pearl. Then the old lady ordered 8 great oysters to attach themselves to the tail of the princess to show her high rank. "But they hurt me so," said the little mermaid. "Pride must suffer pain," replied the old lady. Oh, how gladly she would have shaken off all this grandeur and laid aside the heavy wreath. The red flowers in her own garden would have suited her much better. But she could not help herself, so she said, "Farewell," and rose as lightly as a bubble to the surface of the water. The sun had just set as she raised her head above the waters, but the clouds were tinted with crimson and gold, and through the glimmering twilight beamed the evening star in all its beauty. The sea was calm, and the air mild and fresh. A large ship with 3 masts lay becalmed on the water, with only one sail set, for not a breeze stirred. And the sailors sat idle on deck, or almost on the rigging. There was music and song on board, and as darkness came on, 100 coloured lanterns were lighted, as if the flags of all nations waved in the air. The little mermaid swam close to the cabin windows, and now and then, as the waves lifted her up, she could look in through clear glass window panes and see a number of well-dressed people within. Among them was a young prince, the most beautiful of all, with large black eyes. He was 16 years of age, and his birthday was being kept with much rejoicing. The sailors were dancing on deck, but when the prince came out of the cabin, more than 100 rockets rose in the air, making it as bright as day. The little mermaid was so startled, as if all the stars of heaven were falling around her. She had never seen such fireworks before. Great suns spurted fire about. Splendid fireflies flew into the blue air, and everything was reflected in the clear, calm sea beneath. The ship itself was so brightly illuminated that all the people and even the small rope could be distinctly and plainly seen. And how handsome the young prince looked as he pressed the hands of all present and smiled at them, while the music resounded through the clear night air. It was very late, yet the little mermaid could not take her eyes from the ship or from the beautiful prince. The coloured lanterns had been extinguished. No more rockets rose in the air, and the cannon had ceased firing. But the sea became restless, and a moaning, grumbling sound could be heard beneath the waves. Still, the little mermaid remained by the cabin window, rocking up and down on the water, which enabled her to look in. After a while, the sails were quickly unfurled, and the noble ship continued her passage. But soon the waves rose higher. Heavy clouds darkened the sky, and lightning appeared in the distance. A dreadful storm was approaching. Once more the sails were reefed, and the great ship pursued her flying course over the raging sea. The waves rose mountains high, as if they would have overtopped the mast. But the ship dived like a swan between them, and then rose again on her lofty, foaming crests. To the little mermaid, this appeared a pleasant sport, but not so to the sailors. At length, the ship groaned and creaked. Thick planks gave way under the lashing of the sea as it broke over the deck. The mainmast snapped asunder like a reed, and the ship lay over on her side, and the water rushed in. The little mermaid now perceived that the crew were in danger. Even she herself was obliged to be careful to avoid the beams and planks of the wreck, which lay scattered on the water. At one moment it was so pitch dark that she could not see a single object. But a flash of lightning revealed the whole scene. She could see everyone who had been on board, except the prince. When the ship parted, she had seen him sink into the deep waves, and she was glad, for she thought he would now be with her. And then she remembered that human beings could not live in the water, so that when he got down to her father's palace, he would be quite dead. But he must not die. So she swam about among the beams and planks which strewed the surface of the sea, forgetting that they could crush her to pieces. Then she dived deeply under the dark waters, rising and falling with the waves, till at length she managed to reach the young prince, who was fast losing the power of swimming in that stormy sea. His limbs were failing him, his beautiful eyes were closed, and he would have died had not the little mermaid come to his assistance. She held his head above the water and let the waves drift them where they would. In the morning the storm had ceased, but of the ship not a single fragment could be seen. The sun rose up red and glowing from the water, and its beams brought back the hue of health to to the prince's cheeks, but his eyes remained closed. The mermaid kissed his high, smooth forehead and stroked back his wet hair. He seemed to her like the marble statue in her little garden, and she kissed him again and wished that he might live. Presently they came in sight of land. She saw lofty blue mountains on which the white snow rested as if a flock of swans were lying upon them. Near the coast were beautiful green forests, and close by stood a large building, whether a church or a convent she could not tell. Orange and citron trees grew in the garden, and before the door stood lofty palms. The sea here formed a little bay, in which the water was quite still, but very deep. So she swam with the handsome prince to the beach, which was covered with fine white sand, and there she laid him in the warm sunshine, taking care to raise his head higher than his body. Then bells sounded in the large white building, and a number of young girls came into the garden. The little mermaid swam out farther from the shore and placed herself between some high rocks that rose out of the water. Then she covered her head and neck with the foam of the sea, so that her little face might not be seen, and watched to see what would become of the poor prince. She did not wait long before she saw a young girl approach the spot where he lay, and the mermaid saw that the prince came to life again, and smiled upon those who stood around him. But to her he sent no smile. He knew not that she had saved him. This made her very unhappy, and when he was led away into the great building, she dived down sorrowfully into the water and returned to her father's castle. She had always been silent and thoughtful, and now she was more so than ever. Her sisters asked her what she had seen during her first visit to the surface of the water, but she would tell them nothing. Many an evening and morning did she rise to the place where she had left the prince. She saw the fruits in the garden ripen till they were gathered, the snow on the tops of the mountains melt away, but she never saw the prince, and therefore she returned home always more sorrowful than before. It was her only comfort to sit in her own little garden and fling her arm around the beautiful marble statue which was like the prince. But she gave up tending her flowers, and they grew in wild confusion over the paths, twining their long leaves and stems round the branches of the trees, so that the whole place became dark and gloomy. At length she could bear it no longer, and told one of her sisters all about it. Then the others heard the secret, and very soon it became known to two mermaids whose intimate friend happened to know who the prince was. She had also seen the festival on board ship, and she told them where the prince came from and where his palace stood. "Come, little sister," said the other princesses. Then they twined their arms and rose up in a long row to the surface of the water, close by the spot where they knew the prince's palace stood. It was built of bright yellow shining stone, with long flights of marble steps, and between the pillars that surrounded the whole building stood lifelike statues of marble. Through the clear crystal of the lofty windows could be seen noble rooms, with costly silk curtains and hangings of tapestry, while the walls were covered with beautiful paintings which were a pleasure to look at. In the centre of the largest salon, a fountain threw its sparkling jets high up into the glass cupola of the ceiling, through which the sun shone down upon the water and upon the beautiful plants growing round the basin of the fountain. Now that she knew where he lived, she spent many an evening and many a night on the water near the palace. She would swim much nearer the shore than any of the others ventured to do. Indeed, once when she went quite up the narrow channel under the marble balcony, which threw a broad shadow on the water, here she would sit and watch the young prince, who thought himself quite alone in the bright moonlight. She saw him many times of an evening, sailing in a pleasant boat, with music playing and flags waving. She peeped out from among the green rushes, and if the wind caught her long silvery white veil, those who saw it believed it to be a swan spreading out.
A swan, you say? Right, okay, that's a lot. Stretching. Right, that's a lot of things I've changed out of that. Changed the castle because it just didn't seem to be working for me. The octopus doesn't have to be Morgana, but I'll try and do a face in the. Just change that down. I'll try and put her face in there. I've got to find it. I've got to sort of know what they look like. I can change it, color schemes and things like that. But she's basically going to be taking a thing from the Marvel comics, as always. A bowl or a machine, something like very much similar to what you would call a. Don't know. I'll have to think of it. But yeah, we got to do the Little Mermaid now. I've got to find a picture, so bear with me. I'm gonna grab my phone. Grab my phone, and then we'll get sketching. Right, let's have a drink of me coffee there. But like I said at the beginning, we've got these 7 different things. We've got the ice in there, so there's the ice here. So I'm going to bring the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got the ice. Definitely got the octopus. That's going to be like an alien octopus. It's trying to go with the alien or future. Wait, it can't be an alien. Future, that's why it's mechanical. Everybody goes cyborg, obviously, when you go to the future. She's got a cyborg arm. She's going to be some sort of rebel. This here, it's meant to be like a spaceshipy thingy kind of thing. When I started doing it, I was like, that would be a castle. And now it's like, that could be a round. So I've done that. It's going to be some sort of spaceship kind of thing. It's going to look better when it's digitized. We've got octopus and we've got ice. Yes, we've got dawn. Again, I can't do dawn until I go to shading, but maybe, I don't know. But the dawn. Oh, I just had an idea. Dawn. There's the sun coming up. Do you know what, guys? What does the sun look like if you're not standing on the horizon? Does it change under the water? I've never been to see. I mean, I've never seen it in such a way where you've gone from. It obviously doesn't. The sun doesn't change, but will it sort of warp a little bit? Maybe under the water. We're not looking on horizon. We're looking underneath the water. So there's. Oh, you wouldn't have an horizon if you're underneath the water. There would be the horizon. There wouldn't be a horizon unless we're here looking sort of down at. Yeah, that'll do. That'll work. Okay, so Disney, going to be a Little Mermaid. Future, there. That's a mechanical. She's going to have a mechanical arm. Dark, don't really know. Well, she's going to be a dark character because she's going to be a punk. And Treasure is what they're fighting for. Fighting. Yeah, I think I've got most of it all in there, really. Yeah. What do you think, guys? Let me know. I know I've definitely got the octopus. We've definitely got the ice. We've got dawn. Dusk is when it goes down to dawn. Disney, future, dark, punk. I'm a bit punk there, just to remind myself. Punk. And then the treasure is the middle piece. Right. So that's everything for Mermaid this week. I should have done something every single bloody day, but that's not the way I do things. I thought we'd do one big picture for 1 week. If you have enjoyed it, guys, let me know in the comment section. I'm just going to find a picture of the Little Mermaid a moment using my phone. So let's. Ooh, no, won't be no. I gave her like a jetpack, but not a jetpack. The water equivalent. Yeah, just to make it look more futury. Dark punk, neon punk, I suppose. I have no idea. Right, let's find a picture of the Little Mermaid. That's the wrong. Should just had her should have just had her sitting down on the bloody blooming rock, shouldn't I? Try not to swear, everybody. Can you tell? I've never noticed how much I swear until I can't. All right, that's what she looks like. That's what we're kind of listening to. I should have put her on a rock. Should have put her on a rock, and now I've already done the picture. Should-de-de-be-do. Well, there you go. What picture more do I need than that? There we go. There's my reference. Let's get the Little Mermaid going again.
At its wings. On many a night, too, when the fishermen with their torches were out at sea, she heard them relate so many good things about the doings of the young prince that she was glad she had saved his life when he had been tossed about half dead on the waves. And she remembered that his head had rested on her bosom, and how heartily she had kissed him. But he knew nothing of all this, and could not even dream of her. She grew more and more fond of human beings, and wished more and more to be able to wander about with those whose world seemed to be so much larger than her own. They could fly over the sea in ships, and mount the high hills which were far above the clouds, and the lands they possessed, their woods and their fields, stretched far away beyond the reach of her sight. There was so much that she wished to know, and her sisters were unable to answer all her questions. Then she applied to her old grandmother, who knew all about the upper world, which she very rightly called the lands above the sea. If human beings are not drowned, asked the little mermaid, can they live forever? Do they never die as we do here in the sea? They must also die, and their term of life is even shorter than ours. We sometimes live to 300 years. But when we cease to exist here, we only become the foam on the surface of the water, and we have not even a grave down here of those we love. We have not immortal souls. We shall never live again, but like the green seaweed, when once it has been cut off, we can never flourish more. Human beings, on the contrary, have a soul which lives forever, lives after the body has been turned to dust. It rises up through the clear, pure air beyond the glittering stars. As we rise out of the water and behold all the land of the earth, so do they rise to unknown and glorious regions which we will never see. Why have not we an immortal soul? Asked the little mermaid mournfully. I would give gladly all the hundreds of years that I have to live to be a human being only for one day, and to have the hope of knowing the happiness of that glorious world above the stars. You must not think of that, said the old woman. We feel ourselves to be much happier and much better off than the human beings. So I shall die, said the little mermaid, and as the foam of the sea I shall be driven about never again to hear the music of the waves, or to see the pretty flowers, nor the red sun. Is there anything I can do to win an immortal soul? No, said the old woman. Unless a man were to love you so much that you were more to him than his father or mother, and if all his thoughts and all his love were fixed upon you, and the priest placed his right hand in yours, and he promised to be true to you here and hereafter, then his soul would glide into your body, and you would obtain a share in the future happiness of mankind. He would give a soul to you and retain his own as well. But this can never happen. Your fish's tail, which amongst us is considered so beautiful, is thought on earth to be quite ugly. They do not know any better, and they think it is necessary to have two stout props, which they call legs, in order to be handsome. Then the little mermaid sighed and looked sorrowfully at her fish's tail. Let us be happy, said the old lady, and dart and spring about during the 300 years that we have to live, which is really quite long enough. After that we can rest ourselves all the better. This evening we are going to have a court ball. It is one of those splendid sights which we can never see on earth. The walls and the ceiling of the large ballroom were of thick but transparent crystal. Many hundreds of colossal shells, some of a deep red, others of a grass green, stood on each side in rows with blue fire in them, which lighted up the whole saloon and shone through the walls, so that the sea was also illuminated. Innumerable fishes, great and small, swam past the crystal walls. On some of them the scales glowed with a purple brilliancy, and on others they shone like silver and gold. Through the halls flowed a broad stream, and in it danced the mermen and the mermaids to the music of their own sweet singing. No one on earth has such a lovely voice as theirs. The little mermaid sang more sweetly than them all. The whole court applauded her with hands and tails, and for a moment her heart felt quite gay, for she knew she had the loveliest voice of any on earth or in the sea. But she soon thought again of the world above her, for she could not forget the charming prince, nor her own sorrow that she had not an immortal soul like his. Therefore she crept away silently out of her father's palace, and while everything within was gladness and song, she sat in her own little garden, sorrowful and alone. Then she heard the bugle sounding through the water, and thought, "He is certainly sailing above, he on whom my wishes depend, and in whose hand I should like to place the happiness of my life. I will venture all for him, and to win an immortal soul, while my sisters are dancing in my father's palace. I will go to the sea witch, of whom I have always been so much afraid, but she can give me counsel and help." And then the little mermaid went out from her garden, and took the road to the foaming whirlpools, behind which the sorceress lived. She had never been that way before. Neither flowers nor grass grew there. Nothing but bare, grey, sandy ground stretched out to the whirlpool, where the water, like foaming mill wheels, whirled round everything that it seized, and cast it into the fathomless deep. Through the midst of these crushing whirlpools the little mermaid was obliged to pass, to reach the dominions of the sea witch. And also for a long distance the only road lay right across a quantity of warm bubbling mire, called by the witch a turf moor. Beyond this stood her house, in the centre of a strange forest, in which all the trees and flowers were polypi, half animals and half plants. They looked like serpents, with 100 heads growing out of the ground. The branches were long, slimy arms, with fingers like flexible worms, moving limb after limb from the root to the top. All that could be reached in the sea they seized upon, and held fast, so that it could never escape from their clutches. The little mermaid was so alarmed at what she saw, she stood still, and her heart beat with fear. And she was very nearly turning back, but she thought of the prince, and of the human soul for which she longed, and her courage returned. She fastened her long flowing hair round her head, so that the polypi might not seize hold of it. She laid her hands together across her bosom, and then she darted forward as a fish shoots through water, between the supple arms and fingers of the ugly polypi, which were stretched out on each side of her. She saw that each held in its grasp something it had seized with its numerous little arms, as if they were iron bands. The white skeletons of human beings who had perished at sea and had sunk down into the deep waters. Skeletons of land animals, oars, rudders, and chests of ships were lying tightly
Okay, she's
grasped
smiling because she's
by
like,
their clinging arms.
because she's getting a big ass gun.
Even the little mermaid, whom they had caught and strangled. And this seemed the most shocking of all to the little princess. She now came to a space of marshy ground in the wood, where large, fat water snakes were rolling in the mire and showing their ugly, drab-coloured bodies. In the midst of this spot stood a house, built with the bones of shipwrecked human beings. There sat the sea witch, allowing a toad to eat from her mouth, just as sometimes people feed a canary with a piece of sugar. She called the ugly water snakes her little chickens and allowed them to crawl all over. "I know what you want," said the sea witch. "It is very stupid of you, but you shall have your way, and it will bring you sorrow, my pretty princess. You want to get rid of your fish's tail, and to have two supports instead of it, like human beings on earth, so that the young prince may fall in love with you, and that you may have an immortal soul." And then the witch laughed so loudly and disgustingly that the toad and the snakes fell to the ground and lay there wriggling about. "You are but just in time," said the witch, "for after sunrise tomorrow I should not be able to help you till the end of another year. I will prepare a draught for you, with which you must swim to land tomorrow before sunrise, and sit down on the shore and drink it. Your tail then will disappear and shrink up into what mankind calls legs, and you will feel great pain, as if a sword were passing through you. But all who see you will say that you are the prettiest little human being they ever saw. You will still have the same floating gracefulness of movement, and no dancer will ever tread so lightly. But at every step you take, it will feel as if you were treading upon sharp knives, and that the blood must flow. If you will bear this, I will help you." "Yes, I will," said the little princess in a trembling voice, as she thought of the prince and the immortal soul. "But think again," said the witch, "for when once your shape has become like a human being, you can no more be a mermaid. You will never return through the water to your sisters or to your father's palace again. And if you do not win the love of the prince, so that he is willing to forget his father and mother for your sake, and to love with you with his whole soul, and allow the priest to join your hands that you may be man and wife, then you will never have an immortal soul. The first morning after he marries another, your heart will break, and you will become foam on the crest of the waves." "I will do it," said the little mermaid, and she became pale as death. "But I must be paid also," said the witch, "and it is not a trifle I ask. You have the sweetest voice of any who dwell here in the depths of the sea, and you believe that you will be able to charm the prince with it also. But this voice you must give to me. The best thing you possess will I have for the price of my draught. My own blood must be mixed with it, that it may be as sharp as a two-edged sword. But if you take away my voice," said the little mermaid, What is left for me? Your beautiful form, your graceful walk, and your expressive eyes. Surely with these you can enchain a man's heart. Well, have you lost your courage? Put out your little tongue that I may cut it off as payment. Then you shall have the powerful draught.
Okay, so we've got a picture of the villain now, which I'm going to go into here and change this one.
Said the little mermaid. Then the witch placed her cauldron on the fire to prepare
the magic at all, really.
Cleanliness is a good thing.
Cleanliness is next to cuddliness.
Scouring the vessels with snakes, which she had tied together in a large knot. Then she pricked herself in the breast and let the black blood drop into it. The steam that rose formed itself into such horrible shapes that no one could look at them without fear. Every moment the witch threw something else into the vessel, and when it began to boil, the sound was like the weeping of a crocodile. When at last the magic draught was ready, it looked like the clearest water. "There it is for you," said the witch. Then she cut off the mermaid's tongue so that she became dumb and would never again speak or sing. "If the polypi should seize hold of you as you return through the wood," said the witch, "throw over them a few drops of the potion, and their fingers will turn into 1,000 pieces." But the little mermaid had no occasion to do this, for the polypi sprang back in terror when they caught sight of the glittering draught, which shone in her hand like a twinkling star. So she passed quickly through the wood and the marsh, and between the rushing whirlpools. She saw that in her father's palace the torches in the ballroom were extinguished, and all within asleep. But she did not venture to go into them, for now she was done and going to leave them forever. She felt as if her heart would break. She stole into the garden and took a flower from the flower beds of each of her sisters, kissed her hand 1,000 times towards the palace, and then rose up through the dark blue waters. The sun had not risen when she came in sight of the prince's palace and approached the beautiful marble steps, but the moon shone clear and bright. Then the little mermaid drank the magic draught and lay like one dead. When the sun rose and shone over the sea, she recovered and felt a sharp pain. But just before her stood the handsome young prince. He fixed his coal black eyes upon her so earnestly that she cast down her own, and then became aware that her fish tail was gone, and that she had as pretty a pair of white legs and tiny feet as any little maiden could have. But she had no clothes, so she wrapped herself in her long, thick hair. The prince asked her who she was, and where she came from, and she looked at him mildly and sorrowfully with her deep blue eyes, but she could not speak. Every step she took was as the witch had said it would be. She felt as if treading upon the points of needles or sharp knives, but she bore it willingly, and stepped as lightly by the prince's side as a soap bubble, so that he and all who saw her wondered at her graceful swaying movements. She was very soon arrayed in costly robes of silk and muslin, and was the most beautiful creature in the palace. But she was dumb, and could neither speak nor sing. Beautiful female slaves dressed in silk and gold stepped forward and sang before the prince and his royal parents. One sang better than all the others, and the prince clapped his hands and smiled at her. This was great sorrow to the little mermaid. She knew how much more sweetly she herself could sing once, and she thought, "Oh, if he could only know that! I have given away my voice forever to be with him." The slaves next performed some pretty fairy-like dances to the sound of beautiful music. Then the little mermaid raised her lovely white arms, stood on the tips of her toes, and glided over the floor, and danced as no one yet had been able to dance. At each moment her beauty became more revealed, and her expressive eyes appealed more directly to the heart than the songs of the slaves. Everyone was enchanted, especially the prince, who called her his little foundling, and she danced again quite readily to please him, though each time her foot touched the floor it seemed as if she trod on sharp knives. The prince said she would remain with him always, and she received permission to sleep at his door on a velvet cushion. He had a page's dress made for her, that she might accompany him on horseback. They rode together through the sweet-scented woods, where the green boughs touched their shoulders, and the little birds sang among the fresh leaves. She climbed with the prince to the top of high mountains, and although her tender feet bled so that even her steps were marked, she only laughed and followed him till they could see the clouds beneath them looking like a flock of birds travelling to distant lands. While at the prince's palace, and when all the household were asleep, she would go and sit on the broad marble steps, for it eased her burning feet to bathe them in the cold sea water. And then she thought of all those below in the deep. Once, during the night, her sisters came up arm in arm, singing sorrowfully as they floated on the water. She beckoned to them, and then they recognized her and told her how she had grieved them. After that they came to the same place every night, and once she saw in the distance her old grandmother, who had not been to the surface of the sea for many years, and the old sea king, her father, with his crown on his head. They stretched out their hands towards her, but they did not venture so near the land as her sisters did. As the days passed, she loved the prince more fondly, and he loved her as he would love a little child. But it never came into his head to make her his wife. Yet unless he married her, she could not receive an immortal soul. And on the morning after his marriage with another, she would dissolve into the foam of the sea. "Do you not love me the best of them all?" the eyes of the little mermaid seemed to say, when he took her in his arms and kissed her fair forehead. "Yes, you are dear to me," said the prince, "for you have the best heart, and you are the most devoted to me. You are like a young maiden whom I once saw, but whom I shall never meet again. I was in a ship that was wrecked, and the waves cast me ashore near a holy temple, where several young maidens performed the service. The youngest of them found me on the shore and saved my life. I saw her but twice, and she is the only one in the world whom I could love. But you are like her, and you have almost driven her image out of my mind. She belongs to the holy temple, and my good fortune has sent you to me instead of her, and we will never part." "Ah, he knows not that it was I who saved his life," thought the little mermaid. "I carried him over the sea to the wood where the temple stands. I sat beneath the foam and watched till the human beings came to help him. I saw the pretty maiden that he loves better than he loves me." And the mermaid sighed deeply, but she could not shed tears.
Excuse me.
"He says the maiden belongs to the holy temple, therefore she will never return to the world. They will meet no more while I am by his side and see him every day. I will take care of him.
Okay, I'm going to pause that there.
And
ooh, stretch again. Woo. Drink a bit of my coffee and show you what I've done. Where's my break? There he is. Right, let's give you another zoom out. I've turned a little bit more detail now. If you can see what I've done, hopefully you have seen this evolve from just a sketch to a sort of mild doodle, something that could be an actual image. So let's go back and see what we have already got on the list. Again, we're going to be doing this picture every single day. Today is the sketch date. Tomorrow I'll be inking. And then on Wednesday, I'll color this one here in. With my Copic markers, pencils, pens, whatever sort of really works and what will make things pop. More likely I'll be using pencil for the water and things, and I'll be using different effects. I might go and get myself some Copic markers before then. If I do so, definitely don't forget to tune in for that. My name again, guys, is Blut 084, BLUT 084, Art and Games. I'm here every single day on YouTube and will be for this picture and as every week to draw a picture for you. Also on Mixer, where I play some games and I'm doing live, but I'm very occasionally over there. That is on the Xbox, generally just the weekends for me. And then I'm also over day and night over on Instagram, guys. So if you haven't gone over and put me a poll, this was a poll, and I did ask you guys what you wanted me to do this week, as last week and the week before that we were doing some MCU because of the end game. But you guys have voted for a mermaid, as it is May now, and here we go. I'm thinking of getting a book for Inktober, but that's another video. Here is this week's mermaid prompts. Octopus, ice. So that's 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. That is every day this week, so Monday to Sunday. The octopus, which we've already got. With ice, which we've already got. Dawn, which is kind of there. The sun's coming up. I've also got Disney, which is the mermaid. Little mermaid there. I did try and do her villain there in the face. It's not that good, but I think it'll look better once I've inked it. There's lots of sketchy lines everywhere. And then Future, she's a machine type thing. She's not her true self, so that's kind of where I'm getting it from. And then we've got a top up here. It's kind of a I suppose I could have an observing bay. Something like that. Trying to keep it futuristic, and that's where sort of her spaceship or whatever she comes out of instead of her castle. Future dark, again, it's kind of a dark image because we're going to be in the darkness here. This is going to be, when I get down to digitizing, guys, this will be glowing. These will be fairly dark characters, and the under the sea will be really dark. So let's like chop it here sort of thing. So the whole thing is there. We've got, and then obviously got the treasure, which is going to be glowing towards the end of the week. Don't forget to keep tuning in, guys. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see this come from sketch and piece of paper. Tomorrow I will ink it because tonight I'll refine all of these little sketches. But I think that's the main image that we want for now. Got everything that I need from the list and everything on the picture. If you have enjoyed it, guys, don't forget to give me a like. If you want to tell me anything about your mermaid pictures or mermaid, then let me know in the comment section. And if you want me to do another one and continue on this week into next week and do another picture with the same thing, or go back to the MCU and do some more pictures from Endgame. Otherwise, guys, I've been Bloop084. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you have enjoyed listening to the story in the background, that will be concluded and continued tomorrow. Click links that will appear Otherwise, bye-bye for now.